Hi, I'm back with another update on my 2006 Chevy Impala SS restoration project. So quick overview here. What you're looking at here is the very front of the body that I have completely deconstructed, and the wheel tubs and the strut mounting towers are out. Everything that mounts to the firewall, everything that's welded to the firewall, has been completely stripped off of it. And what you're looking at here is all of these stampings. They have been stripped off, but I've quickly clamped them back on just to mock them up really quick. And yeah, just for an overview here, this entire this front frame, it's just a big U-shaped heavy reinforced kind of top frame. I basically deconstructed the whole thing, so that thing was bare, and repaired all the rust and repaired everything that was wrong with it, and completely recoated every single part. I went all the way up to the top of the firewall. I left the cowl. I'm going to get that later. When I get done there, I have to clean all that up, and that's going to be inside the cowl area. Is going to look the same as on the outside of the firewall. It's going to be slather coated all the way up around the windshield frame and the whole top of the cowl and to the inside of the firewall and everything. I'm getting to that. It's all just getting done in sections. And down here we have everything that was welded to the lower portion. That's a reinforcement. I'll get into that later. That basically goes underneath in the tunnel area, and that's what forms the mounting for basically holds the whole back half of the engine and powertrain, the cradle that goes in there. Anyhow, what you see here are the two front wheel tubs, and they have been this tower piece and the wheel tub, they have been deconstructed and coated inside and out, and these have already been welded back together. You can see where I made the spot welds there. So those have been taken care of as an assembly. And this one here, I replaced the section. I welded in a patch across here. Here's the piece that I cut out of there, and that was just rusty, crummy metal. Wasn't worth trying to clean up, so I just cut it out of there, and you know, that went there like that. See if I can get that in the shot, but I just cut that out of there and cut me a patch and welded it in there. And the appearance of that weld does not have to be finished out. The whole inside of this is going to be coated with bed liner by the time I'm all finished up anyways. It'll look fine. And you know, you can see there's a bunch of upgrades I made here, like all of these studs have been upgraded to a stainless steel. This is a 1024, and that's basically what you have here. I wrap masking tape around it to keep the paint off, but they're all over where various things mount to this, and they've been upgraded. The original is a plain steel, and it has kind of a sheet metal thread. It's made to take a stamped sheet metal nut, and it looks like this right here. Get a light. So yeah, that's one of the original ones right there, and I left that one intact. I have reasons why, and that's the only one I left intact. The rest of them have all been cut off and upgraded to stainless steel. So they have machine threads and stainless steel. These are the extensions that go to the very rear of the they extend the very rear of the subframe rail. I can't, there's no room, but they go back here and they extend the whole thing out another 18 inches or so, and this one goes on the left hand side. It's been upgraded with fasteners. I'll show you. There's a bunch of the original fasteners that are they're just crummy plain steel things that they promote and breed rust. So this is what used to be right here. Okay, I'm sorry, I just almost knocked that off. Okay, that's what used to be right here. One of these kind, and they're made to just there's a rectangle hole, and these are just made to crimp in there. And I punched them out of there. I welded in a stainless steel nut. You have one there, and these are for that gives you a mounting point, a couple of brackets that hold brake lines and fuel lines. So that's the side that you see on the outside, and you have M6 threads in there with a stainless steel nut that's welded on. And what you have there now is something, there's no exposed metal except for the internal threads that are made of stainless, and so nothing can rust. So that's an upgrade I made there. And then like this crummy thing here, this is something that they like to use. They make this, they just hammer this clip into a rectangular hole, and you can see how rusty that is. And when you hammer that into that hole, it's going to break paint and promote rust, and it's nothing but a rust breeder. And this piece was this was right over here, and I talked about this before, but that's what used to be here. There was a rectangular hole, and it was just hammered into there, and I filled that rectangular hole up and welded in a stainless steel M6 nut, and I have a stainless steel bolt, and so that's another fastener upgrade that I make all over the place wherever I can find a spot. Here's another style of clip they use. This takes basically a sheet metal type of thread bolt, and again they just have a rectangular hole, and they just hammer them in there, breaks paint. And this kind here was used in places like there was probably one very similar to it. Right here there was a rectangular hole, and now there's a nut welded in there, and all these screws are in here. I put these in here because there's internal threads here. That's factory. There's internal threads on all this. This is to bolt the fender down, and I think this one down here on the very end, it holds the headlight, if I'm not mistaken. But it was one of those. It's one of these clips that just takes a sheet metal screw. I upgraded that to a nut. So I guess you can see in here. You can see the nut. It's welded to the inside of there, so have very nice machine threads. Those are the fastener upgrades, and you know, you'll also see these studs. They're masked off, but like I said, that's what you get there now, and they're all over the place. They're on the firewall everywhere. Everywhere I had one of those sheet metal style studs. Upgraded to those, and I've got this internal brace ready to go. These are all coated, and I have to mark all these holes with a Sharpie. The ones I'm going to weld up, I'm not going to weld up every single one of them. Most of them, there's a couple here and there I don't think are necessary. The thing is Swiss cheese, and I'll weld most of them up. So you mark the ones that you're going to weld. Then you have to take this back out, and you have to get yourself a suitable tool and grind away the paint wherever you made a dot, so you have bare metal there. And you'll grind away the paint on the inside of this hole too, so you'll have bare metal there. You weld it up, and then you know, you've probably already seen, but I can show you later how that turns out when you weld next to the coating. And so that's got to go there. This is the piece that goes that piece goes in there like that. It goes on top of everything. Once I got all that welded together, that'll go on top of there and creates an internal brace in there. And yeah, like I showed you before, these have all been sandblasted, acid soaked. These pieces too, they're original, and they've been reconditioned, sandblasted, acid soaked till they were as clean as the day they were made. And now they're coated with very thick, durable coatings. This rail here is the right-hand side, and this is the extension that goes on the right-hand side. It doesn't have any fasteners on it. Like I said, the one with the fasteners is the left-hand side, and then I'm sorry, yeah, the one with the fasteners, left-hand side, and that goes to this, the other one. This is the left-hand side, and it has an internal brace that's also totally sandblasted, acid cleaned, recoated, very immaculate, and it's waiting for me to pound that in there and clamp it in tight, mark all the holes, then take it back out, and you know, prepare all the holes, then clamp it back in there, weld it all up, and then this piece. And this is all on the left-hand side. This is all much larger and heavier, and I have to, so that's gonna go. That's gonna go there on top of the whole thing after it's all together. So that has to be prepared and made into a welded solid unit. So there's the left-hand rail, and so I covered all that, and then yeah, like I said, these units. This one here is left-hand side, right-hand side over there, and they're going to be set back in there as a unit. Here's something I discovered. If you see this pitting here, there was some pretty heavy rust behind there. And that is the result. That's just hidden, and that's the result of the original factory primer dip. It just didn't get in there. There was an air bubble in there. And when I separated this, that's what I found, heavy rust. And this had to all be sandblasted, and you can see that's the pitting that's left behind after you cleaned away all that scale and cleaned it down to absolute clean metal. And there was no way to know about this without taking it apart, drilling out all the spot welds, and deconstructing it. That's the only way you'd ever know about this. Otherwise, you know, that's rusting away under there, and you'll never know. And I'll show you where that went. And I need my light. And that went right over here. That edge mates up. That side mates up with there, and you can see all the pitting. I sandblasted that. This is fortunately this is made out of some pretty heavy stock here. This is heavier than just the body sheet metal. It's a heavier gauge. It's made to be structural, so there's something left of it to clean up. I didn't have to patch it. Just got it all nice and clean. And yeah, I'll show you the tool I used for that. My little indoor sandblaster. And I picked this thing up like about 30 years ago. I got a deal on it, and I've almost never used it. I can't even remember. I might have used it like one time, right when I first got it, and the thing just sat in a trailer. But what this thing is made to do, it's for indoor spot sandblasting. And well, it's been hard for me to find a place where I could actually use it, but that was a place where I could use it. I had to do a couple of spots here and there on that firewall, and also down underneath. Got under the floor and a bunch of other little places, and this is the perfect setup for that. The way this works, it's like a big shop vac, and it has a sandblasting gun, and the sandblasting gun goes through the hose, and probably can't see it there. Maybe you can see it. So what enables you to do is you can sandblast indoors, and you just put this up to the work and sandblast. You got to kind of do it blind, okay? You just got to feel your way around, and you shoot that, and you know, you got to have an air compressor. This thing doesn't provide you with shop air. What this thing does, though, is it reclaims all of the sand. It keeps the sand. You know, you got to hold this up to the work, and it pretty much sucks all the sand back in. It sucks the silica dust. It basically enables you to sandblast small little touch-up spots indoors without making a mess of everything, without scattering sand all over the place, and it works pretty good. If you keep it up to the work, it doesn't let much sand get away. Maybe a couple of little couple of little kernels of sand here and there. I mean, less than a handful got away from me. And see if you can. This thing just it slides in there. I can't hold this and hold that at the same time, but anyway, here we go. All right, so that just slides in there. That's your sandblasting. And it looks pretty much like an ordinary sandblasting gun, except it's made to fit this. And there we go. And so, yeah, you just you turn this thing on. It's got like HEPA filters in there, and it catches all the sand. The sand goes down the bottom, and it basically it just circulates. It recirculates the same sand, and if you don't lose much, it'll just keep the same batch of sand going in there. And it's not good for big job. It's made for spot work, and that's what I had over here. I had spot work, and worked pretty good. So that worked out for me. And all of these, what you're looking at here, all of these stampings here, every single one of these, all these welds, they all had to be drilled out, chiseled apart carefully without damaging anything, and now I've just they've all been sandblasted. Here you can see some pitting in there. There was areas that had air bubbles in the primer. There was an area right here that the factory dip missed, and it was very rusty, and I fixed that. And basically what this does is this curved area mounts to the front of that wheel tub, and the wheel tub's going to go like that, and then the subframe rail comes up out of here, and it goes right along. Follow my hand here, and goes right along here, and this welds to the top of the subframe rail, and the subframe rail passes through here, and everything, this all welds to the top of the subframe rail. This welds to the side of it. So all these stampings are tied to the front of the subframe rail where it comes out. And like I said, I've just got all these mocked up. And eventually what I have to do is I have to mark and prepare each and every one of these holes for welding. And same thing over here. These are all just, they're just clamped in there really quick. So this whole thing, everything that, this was all deconstructed, cleaned up to perfection, coated with very durable coatings. And now it's ready for me to get it all lined up and redo all those welds. And this radiator core support here, we got a couple. There's a nut that used to be a clip. Replace that with a stainless steel nut. Another one there, used to be a clip. Replace that with a stainless steel nut. Another one there, another one there. Here you can see there's a little detail under here that right here I've already welded this back. What this forms is a bracket to bolt down the fender, and that used to be a clip, and now it's a stainless steel nut. And same thing over here, and you can see where I made these welds, and you can see how this a little bit of this coating, there's the weld, and a little bit of coating just burns away, but it's pretty controlled because this stuff holds up to the heat, and so after you're done with the welding, you just scuff the whole thing down again and recoat the whole thing, because all this is going to have welds in it and there'll be burned paint. Scuff it all down and recoat it again. And like I say, everywhere you get in the gap with some frame shot. So that's going to help seal up the burned paint that's inside of the gap there. And it's a whole lot better than what I started out with. And so anyway, got a bunch of stuff down here. And this piece, well, this piece here, this is a brace, and it goes right there. And what that does, it's just to stiffen it up there. It just slaps on there. You see how the holes all line up. So I took that off and decided to give that thing the works. I put a, you can see I have an upgraded stainless stud on that. And so yeah, that slaps on there, and this whole thing is, there's a stainless stud there, another stainless stud there, another stainless stud there. There's a couple of them all around. And then this piece here, this thing is about 8 pieces. And this thing forms a reinforcement to give you the strength where the whole engine cradle bolts to this. You got a couple of cage nuts here. So you got that diamond shaped nut, and that holds, there's just 4 bolts. There's a rectangular shaped cradle and 2 anchor points there, and then there'll be 2 anchor points right up here at the front of the frame horn. Those are same thing, captive cage nuts in there, and that's how the whole engine cradle bolts in. It's an aluminum rectangle. And so you line I gotta weld that cage nut back in there, and then this thing, this goes underneath. So it goes underneath there like that, and it's gonna be flush. It sandwiches and lines up. It lines up with all these holes. That goes under there, and you have to pick that up, slide it under. But anyway, this thing here, I had to cut that ear off. What you're looking at there, that's a weld bead. I had to cut this ear off. I just sawed right through it there because there was no way to get these holes drilled to drill out these spot welds, and then I got it off there. I was just gonna make a piece from scratch, but then I figured I got to drill holes in it anyway to weld it back on. So I'll use the one that's got holes in it already, and I just welded it back on there. So that makes that ear. And then you know what that thing does is it sandwiches right there. So the whole thing makes a sandwich there. This is heavier gauge stuff. That makes a sandwich under there, and that gives you that goes to the side of the frame rail. That goes to the side of it. And you do the same thing over there. That's the same thing, the cage nut over there. And then this piece, this is all heavier gauge stuff. And that piece goes on top of it, and this all welds together. Now these welds are just to make the sandwich, and then these welds here are where it attaches to the firewall right around the tunnel here. So this whole thing has to be reconstructed and get it all ready, and then as a unit it has to go up in there. And what I found is also there's about these welds right here. There's 2 welds there, and there's 2 welds there, and these weld to the subframe rail, and these welds do not come through the floor, so there's no way to access them. Like these welds here come through the floor, and these welds come to the floor, and these welds come to the floor, and these come through the floor. But none of this does, and none of this. And what happened was I had to take this thing down as a whole unit with the 2 subframe rails because I couldn't access these welds. So I took the whole thing down as a unit. I had, you know, 1 rail here and 1 rail here, and it just makes a big H. Okay, if you can imagine those subframe rails, those things are like what, about 8 feet long. And yeah, they ain't exactly feather light, you know. And I took the whole thing out as a unit because I didn't want to butcher the thing. I had to keep this all reusable, you know. And so I took them all out like a big H, and so I lowered them down And that's how I'm probably going to have to put them back in. I'm going to have to set this thing all up to where this thing is all welded up, and I'm going to make a big H out of the two subframe rails, and then you got to lift it in there, or maybe set it up on jack stands, lower the car down to it. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. But anyway, this over here, this is the area of the floor. That's all cleaned up and recoated. That's the area of the floor where the subframe rail has to go. I'm not worried about this part in here, because I'm going to get that after I get the rotisserie on it someday, and I'll be able to flip it over sideways. And so there you go there. And that's all been cleaned up, immaculate and coated, and give me a new landing strip for where that all goes. And all those holes are going to be filled up with spot welds, and that's what the subframe rail all welds to the floor. And all those holes as you come up through here, and more holes, and you fill them all in and weld that all together. So that's how that works. And then I don't know, there's some other stuff I was doing, like I put the exhaust in just to make sure it all hangs right and everything. So gas tank is hanging in there, the rear suspension support cradle, and the exhaust hangs off of that cradle in one spot there, and then it hangs off of the subframe rails in a couple of pieces, in a couple of areas, a couple of spots there. There's a couple of brackets, and I'm just making sure everything fits, everything looks like it's supposed to. And it's not staying on there. I just threw it up there just for fitting purposes, just to check. And it all fits real nice. You got the brackets there. And there's another bracket right there that comes off of the right-hand subframe rail. And it all lands where it's supposed to. There's a bracket there. And so just making sure all that stuff hangs in there where it's supposed to, and then it's going to come off. And yeah, you see my bucket full of rubber tie downs, and that's my trick for putting things in that are kind of big and unwieldy. Like, for example, this exhaust. This is all one piece. This is a GM replacement here, and it's all one piece from that resonator all the way to the end. And it's kind of a two-man job to install it. I can pick it up, but to actually get it in place is kind of difficult all by yourself. And the way I figure that out is you get your rubber tie downs, and you just pick up one end and you string it up with your rubber tie downs and get it close. It doesn't have to be right on the money. Just string it up there with your rubber tie down, get it close, come to the other end and start doing the same thing. Just pick it up one corner at a time, and get it close with your rubber tie downs, and then work your way up. Once you've got it suspended with rubber tie downs, then you can go back and get one spot closer or in place, and then come back around. And so that's how you do it. And I did it the same way with everything else. I did it with both of these subframe rails. They were put in one end at a time by just hanging them with rubber tie downs, getting them close and working my way in. That whole trunk floor, I did the exact same thing with that. So I've been using that technique, and I'll probably be using that technique on the front subframe rails too. So yeah, that's how I get that stuff done, single-handed. I got no helping hands, so I use my imagination and a whole bunch of rubber tie downs, string it up and get it close, and then work your way in from there. So yeah, I guess that'll do it for now. And I guess the next time I'll show you what it all looks like when I get all those stampings, when I get them all welded back together and get a final coating on it. So thanks for watching, and till next time, so long.